Sully.
So recently I've been listening to Dr. Gabba a lot. Cool human being who makes very sick house music, and it's got kind of like a Dreamcast retro feel to it. So I wanted to do a video on it because I tried replicating it a while ago and it actually kind of came out well. So just thought I'd walk everyone through it. I think it's pretty accurate. Obviously it's not perfect, but I think it does the job. So we'll start with going through all this.
Dr. Gabba, we must meet with Plasma, Lord of the Piano People.
So to start, we have the drums here, and my drums sound like this. Now usually I wouldn't do a kick that sounds like this, but this is how Gabba does his stuff. They're very punchy and very like long, dramatic, with a lot of mid-tones and low end, and it's just very punchy in your face. So that's that. Yeah, literally all I did was, if I take off this drum bus and this shit, it sounds like this normally. Then I'm putting on a transient shaper, which essentially is just making it have more attack, so it has more of a transient, and longer sustain, so it has longer bass. Then I'm EQing it, giving it some more bass down here so that I can mess with that. Don't worry about that. Saturating it, clipping it, and then drum bus to give it this boom. I've turned this up a little bit, drive up a little bit, transients up a little bit so that it's very punchy. So here's without, and then with. Very obnoxious. Usually this wouldn't be a very good kick, but for this style, for some reason it just works. I don't know why. Dr. Gabba just hit a gold spot, I guess. So that's the kick. The hats are very simple. So with like the kick here, you'll hear it in time. So you get the gist. It's just some basic hats, and one thing to note with this is that I did take utility and turn the width down, so these hats are very mono. So they feel very retro, because without it, it's like... Oh, fuck, wait, hold on. I don't know which one that's doing it to, but regardless, it's making it mono, okay? That's all you need to know. It's so that it sounds, you know... Yeah, I mean, as you can see here on the drums, there's literally... On the full chain for all these, there's a utility making everything fully mono. I'm just going to click that because why not? So everything is full mono for that old retro, like, 80s house feel. And then we have the clap. Basic 707 clap. And literally all I'm doing here is I'm saturating it like 8 decibels so that it's kind of crunchy when it, like, works. So without it, it sounds like this. With it, it sounds like this. And it makes it a little bit quieter because of this output here, but once it combines with the kick, it's like... It kind of gets hidden by the kick, which is what you want in a Gabba track. That's like kind of what happens in most of the ones I've heard, is the clap is more of like a tiny little bit of high end to the kick rather than an actual clap. So if I wanted to, I could go in here and mess with it more, but I'm kind of lazy right now, so we'll just go with that. And yeah, here's the drums. Now we're going to go on to the fun part, the overtones. Is very simple, the way I did this, so here's what they sound like. Very old school, retro, things like that. So I'm going to take off all the effects here. Let me group these all together, take them off. It sounds like this usually. Which is cool, but it's not retro at all. Other than the sound, like... Fuck. Basically what I'm doing here is I have OTT to just make it a little bit louder and more chunky. We'll go through each one step by step. So we have OTT. So you bring out some of that high end, so it's like brighter and shit. And then reverb. Slight reverb. It gives it a tiny tail if you hear. it's not very noticeable right now, but once we put on another one, very noticeable. Makes it kind of feel like it's in a room a little bit, which is kind of what you want for that kind of retro-y feel. I don't know. It just gives it kind of a weird washed out feel almost. I don't fucking know. But then we're EQing, taking us a lot of this high end so that it sounds more compressed and retro. Boosting the mids slightly, ever so slightly, just so it's a little bit more color in there. And then utility to bring the width down 34%. Not all the way, because you still want a little bit of that width for like, you know, space in your shit. But yeah, that's pretty cool. So all that shit sounds like that. Oh, also this preset is a faceplant preset called House Piano in the chords section. And all I did was I turned the attack up so that it's not like clicky. I have the decay set a little bit up. You could probably turn this down if you really wanted to, but I have it up because it gives it that, you know, drawn out chord feel. And then I have warm room up just ever so slightly. Usually I turn it all the way off, but I just wanted to have it up a little bit, so I did. And that's all there is to this patch. And then I have two more here, which I essentially just duplicated this one and pitched one down. It just gives it a little bit more low end beef. And then I have this high one, which is, I mean, you know, it's just for high end. So yeah, those are the overtones. And here's the pattern. Very simple. Essentially what you're trying to do is just get very dancey, bouncy, you know, things you can groove to. So like here you can hear, if I put it with the metronome, lots of triplets, things like that, you know, not staying constantly on beat every time, but, you know. And a good way to get kind of flows like this, if you're kind of stuck on this part, is to just start with, you know, single notes on every fourth or whatever, and then just figure out from there, like start adding in-betweens and, you know, things like that, taking away some notes. That's how I got this. Fuck. Also remember that Gaba loves to have these little breaks. All these breaks up here where he adds just like some really close notes that actually change. So like this do-do-do-do. That's like your start of this first part, right? So this entire section, and then we have this one, and then this one.
Dr. Gabba, we must meet with plasma north of the P.
But yeah, that's the pattern. Very simple. We're almost done actually. So the last thing I added, because I felt like it, was this top stuff here. Now, this is kind of all preference. You don't really need to add anything like this unless you genuinely feel like it might need it. But I'm adding these offbeat little keys here, which, by the way, this is a default patch in Ableton that you can just go into instruments and find it in there somewhere. But this patch I thought sounded really nice and just like, and so I added it. I took out the low end, so it's, you know, quieter or whatever, not as harsh. Turned it down a lot and then just threw it in the background, and I think it sounds nice. It's a very, very subtle little extra bit, but it's there, definitely. But I mean, yeah, that's kind of it. Gaba stuff is pretty simple because you don't really have to do much to make something really sick. It's really simple, and hopefully this helps in some way.